Hi everyone, and welcome to this event celebrating the second EDP anniversary today, the 15th December, and we are all welcome. If we move to the second slide, please. Yes, this is to kindly remind us that we need to keep our microphones and video disabled to lessen the load on the internet bandwidth and preserve event quality. You can rename your Zoom name to the following format: first name, comma, last name. And for questions and concerns, please leave those questions and concerns in that bar. Next slide, please. Yeah, moderating with you is Julius Lembito, CEO, Evaluation Society of Kenya. And welcome to this event again. Next, yes. So at this juncture, let me welcome Abi Akus, who comes from Eval, Jordan, to give us a welcome speech. Welcome.
Thank you, Julius. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be and joining us today. I'm very glad to be with all of you in this session today, which is also a special celebration occasion for ERIPE. As you may know, a global discussion exists today in the literature about potential benefits of the professionalization of evaluation and how best to approach this. This topic is getting attention in evaluation field, and evaluation practitioners and scholars in the field are deliberating how the professionalization of evaluation could address the needs of the increasing number of evaluators worldwide, or the vast and the diverse growth in evaluation knowledge, skills, and expertise. In addition, since we are talking about evaluation, there is currently more than 150 VOPs or evaluation association worldwide in around 100 countries. Therefore, I believe as part of the discussion, let's say the global discussion about the professionalization of evaluation, is also about what role could VOPs potentially play in the professionalization of evaluation. Also, scholarship work is developing worldwide on this topic heavily. And we have countries that have managed to establish successful models for the professionalization of evaluation, which our guest speakers will share with us today, and will showcase to us how such models came to exist in their countries, what kind of challenges they faced, and what were and continue be the benefits of the professionalization of the evaluation profession. I wish everybody a very fruitful and rich discussion. I hope that we all go with takeaways that will add value to the global discussions and all efforts about the professionalization for evaluation. And I wish ERIPE all the success in this endeavor. I know how focused and interested they are in this. I'm so glad that you invited me to be part of this discussion today. Thank you, everybody, and I wish you all the best. Back to you, Julius.
Thank you very much, Abi, for those opening remarks. And now we welcome our guest of honor to give the speech, Professor Wolfgang Meyer. Kindly welcome, Prof.
Yes, Thank you, Julius, and sorry for challenging you with my name, which is a very German name, yes. But you handled it well. Thank you, everybody. First of all, so the honor is on my side. I feel very honored to be invited to speak here for ERIPI, and it is really a great pleasure that you invited me for this short note. I think it is always very important that such kind of VOPs develop and install and work hard to improve in the areas. And that's what I want to present here in a few minutes, saying, okay, by looking at the professionalization processes and the literature, well, I'm a sociologist and therefore I should do that. You can find 5 central parts which are important for any kind of professionalization. And in the core, you have such kind of an organization which is able to bring the people together. In many cases, it is just a small network, but the ability of working as such a kind of a VOPI, as we now call it internationally, is not the size, it is the activity of people. And if you have some people who are really working hard, then even small VOPs are very, very active and very helpful for professionalization. So, and of course, we have also huge associations as the American Evaluation Association with more than 7,000 members. But sometimes these huge ships are a little bit slower and are not easy to govern if you're a captain on this ship. So I think it is important to have such kind of VOPs for organizing the different interests, the different perspective. And this is the second part of the elements of professionalization, especially to organize communication. This is what we are here today. So it is the exchange on our countries in this case, because it is interregional organization. And it is, of course, very important to learn from each other. And this is a key driver for improving the process towards a professional evaluation practice. The third part is something which is merely on our side for the universities, but it's also, of course, with many of the VOPs, the interest in offering some courses, study programs to get a professional evaluator. It is, of course, something very, very specific, and we have a huge different and divided area of offers for evaluation trainings. But in the end, it is a question of quality, and that's something which is with us at the university. So we have a very strong quality assurance system. So therefore, universities are an important player in giving such kind of courses or to build up study programs. Unfortunately, we do not have so many. So, you know, Germany is a big country, but we here in Saarland are the only university who is offering a Master of Evaluation. And we're also offering an English Master of Evaluation because we have the feeling that there's a strong need for such kind of trainings and education worldwide, and particularly in Europe. And I know by heart that especially here in Central Eastern Europe and in some of the parts of the countries which are involved here in ERIPI, they will struggle hard to get such kind of trainings and education in their countries. And of course, it's also something which can be offered by VOPs. And I think that's one important role, to build up such kind of trainings program and have a certain standard of quality. Otherwise, it will be offered by someone and nobody knows if they really talk about evaluation. So professionalization means we have at least a certain understanding what evaluation is. And this brings me to the fourth part, which is part of evaluation and merely offered by evaluation societies. and that's building up some standards of evaluation. So we have different forms of these standards. So the real standards are like norms in a way, and they first were developed in the United States, and we have that, for example, in Germany and many parts. But there's also some other forms of such kind of norms saying, okay, if you're really doing an evaluation, you have to ethically, but also from the perspective of the methods, you have to follow some rules. And I think we are all a common being in that. So one thing which is always brought in by evaluators is that we should not leave someone behind. So being open-minded and taking all kind of interest in a fair way into the kind of evaluation is something which I am proud of as a part of evaluations, and as an evaluator, you have to follow this. And of course, as a scientist, we should also have a scientific background. And I think there's also nobody who really is doubting that. But from the perspective of a society, a Malaysian society, it might take some time to find a common and shared ground, and these kind of norms are very, very necessary. And for example, I'm very happy that, for example, the African Evaluation Society and the Latin American Evaluation Society already have built up their own norms. And of course, they are a bit different than the German and the American ones. And finally, the fourth place is a very important place, and this is the market. And I think that's some really serious issue. In most countries, it's still the international organizations who are the ones who commission evaluations. And I think this is a real hard task for any national evaluation society to bring into the policies of their own country the need of evaluation, because it should not be in the end the evaluation of donors, it should be the evaluation of the people. And this means you have to find at least some commissioning institutions in your country. And I know this is sometimes very, very tough, because the politicians are not really keen on being controlled as they feel if you bring in evaluation. So that's just a short run over professionalization and to say, okay, there is a hard and tough way to run such kind of a WP as ERIPE is. And I think we all have to thank those people who engage for that. And I will do that for all those people who are really benefiting from your work. Thank you very much. And I hope it will be a fine discussion today.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much. Yes, evaluation training in diverse forms across the world, but converging in those diverse forms is the quality, especially in universities where M&E courses are offered, like in DESTA, where Evaluation Society of Kenya partners, they have masters in monitoring and evaluation. Quality, and that M&E is relevant to all professions because it's very important. Thank you very much, Prof. And now the ERIPE accomplishment. Welcome, Alok, the convener of ERIPE, to take us through this. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you and greetings everyone. It's a privilege and honor on behalf of ERIPE that I'm presenting our journey in the last 2 years and with this COVID pandemic also in between. This ERIPE idea, or the coming together of different WOPEs from different regions, started in November 2019. And with 6 WOPEs coming together from Sri Lanka, India, Kenya, Kyrgyzstan, West Balkan, and Kenya, Philippines. And now we have increased our membership and family I can say. Now we are 11, and more we are expecting to have in the coming months. So a lot of achievements, I would say, in terms of engagement with different platforms and coming up with some good products and discussions. Next slide, please. One of the things that we did during this engagement among the members representing different WOPAs was that we come up with a working definition on professionalization of evaluation, which is very important, and to take it as a stepping stone. And along with that, what we tried to do in year one was to have the country status report on professionalization of evaluation. So the 6 countries which were the founding members, one can say, on that, what is the status of professionalization of evaluation in respective countries is in this knowledge product, which you can see on the website link that is available in the APR website. Next slide, please. Along with that, what we tried to do, and Ruchira from Sleva took the lead, was to have the series of webinars, I would say, on competencies for evaluators, which is very important when we talk about professionalization. Another important knowledge project that we developed, and I am fortunate to be part of it and developed that, was to talk about ethics in evaluation. And this knowledge product was not meant only for the evaluators, but also for the commissioners and donors to see that ethical standards are being followed when we go for evaluation. So that's the 3 knowledge products, I would say, along with the professionalization that we tried to define. Next slide, please. On completion of year one, we had an online consultation on professionalization of evaluation, and it was well attended. We developed a report also, which we have with us. And from time to time, IREPE was represented by either the co-chair, the convener, other members, and one was during the Asian Evaluation Week. There was a panel discussion on professionalization of evaluation. So IREPE's presence was seen on different platforms. Next slide, please. And we take pride in being part of the Eval for Action campaign as one of the partners. IREPE has been promoting professionalization, popularizing professionalization, and talking about participatory evaluation in terms of making it reach every stakeholder, be part of any evaluation exercise we take up. In the coming months, you can see during February, APR conference along with EvalFest organized by Evaluation Community of India, which I'm also a member and representing here in IREPE, will be organizing EvalFest, and IREPE is one of the partners there. Another thing, which is an ongoing course on gender transformative evaluation, and it's an online course where IREPE again is promoting these kind of things. So IREPE members are very much active in it and talking about it at different platforms. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's all from my side. I would say that during the last 24 months with COVID pandemic, everyone was every region, but we still try to do a lot and we'll be doing it in the coming months. Over to you, Julius. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alok, for that coverage of the journey, the IREPE journey. And it's wonderful to note that IREPE has achieved quite a lot despite the dynamics of COVID-19. And remarkable in those many achievements is the webinar series on competencies of evaluators. Thank you very much. So now we do the launch of products, and in this activity, the program has Rashim and Alok, and I will be studying in for Rashim in presenting the multi-country status on professionalization of evaluation, where we are having the second edition of multi-country status report on professionalization in evaluation, where the this second edition as report covering 7 countries. The first edition had 6 country reports, those VOPE reports, but the second edition has 7, where we have a report from India, Sri Lanka, Kenya, Philippines, Western Balkan, Kyrgyzstan, and Poland. So the reports of those country VOPEs is included in this second edition, and it was compiled by Rashim and the IRIPE, the Interregional Initiative for Professionalization of Evaluation. Next slide, please. Welcome, Alok, to take us through this.
Thank you. Once again, I take this privilege of introducing this new product that we have developed in terms of from the previous year. What we have tried to do here is to focus on gender and child inclusive evaluation. So this knowledge product will be available on the website of IRIPE, the API link that will be provided that you can visit and see, and a kind of self-assessment you can do in terms of looking into whether the evaluation that is being taken up is gender being talked about here or not, the gender mainstreaming has been done or not, and similarly assessment can be done to see whether child inclusive evaluation is there or not. So I hope this knowledge project will add to the resource of the evaluators and emerging evaluators in particular. The young and emerging evaluators may get some lead from it and make a useful and effective evaluation when they do in their profession. So, and feedbacks are very welcome from all the participants and people who have the access to either our multi-country status report or ethical standards in evaluation to have their feedback to us. Thank you, Julius. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Alok. Yes, ethical standards. Thank you very much. And now we enter into this very important event panel. And this panel event is moderated by Vlatko. And kindly welcome Vlatko to moderate the panel.
Thank you very much, Julius. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to ask the panelists, 3 panelists, to turn on their cameras as well, that we can see them. So first of all, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the participants, since we are coming from all the part of the world. So we all know that IRIPE is an interregional initiative for professionalization, and it is very clear that our focus is professionalization of evaluation. So this is why we have invited the speakers for our panel, and they are coming from the countries with advanced implementation of professionalization of evaluation. So I would like, first of all, to introduce our panelists for today's panel. So I have a great honor to welcome our speakers. First of all, from Poland, we have Ms. Monika Niziolek, and she is a very experienced evaluator and a great and very valuable activist in promotion of evaluation. She's president of Polish Evaluation Society as well, PhD at Polish Academy of Sciences, postgraduate evaluation studies completed, and a member of advisory board of NESE. NESE is a network of evaluation VOPEs. But our second speaker is from Japan. So we have our Professor Hirono. He is Professor Emeritus from Seiki University in Tokyo. He is founding president of APIA, founding vice president of IDEAS, Japan Society for International Development, and of course, Japan Evaluation Society. And our third panelist is coming from Canada. And we have here Mr. Benoit Goodyear. So he is a credentialed evaluator. So over the past 37 years, Mr. Benoit was involved in more than 500 research and interventions, 100 evaluations projects. He is a honorary fellow of the Charles Darwin University and a fellow of course, of Canadian Evaluation Society. So I believe that we all know that we have very qualified, very experienced panelists today and very relevant to the topic that we are going to talk about the professionalization. So how we see the professionalization coming from the past and to the future. So let us not waste our time. So I would like to ask the panelists if they would like to share briefly about the history of evaluation professionalization process in your countries. So how was the journey, what's look like to today to have some system? So let us start with Mr. Benoit, if no problem, and then with Monica, and then with Professor Hirono.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this event. Very much appreciated. Summarizing the history of professionalization of evaluation in Canada is no small task, especially in 2 minutes, because it goes back 50 years. The initial impetus was the federal government of Canada, which in that period of reasoned management insisted on establishing an evaluation function. That was the initial impetus, which was picked up by the newly created Canadian Evaluation Society, 1980. Since 1980, the path of professionalization has used many tools. Annual conferences, 41 of them, 36 years of publication of the Canadian Journal of Program Evaluation, which is available free of charge online, 25 years of activities for students, 20 years of delivery of an essential skills seminar, so that there is some common ground within the emerging evaluator profession. There's a mentoring initiative. There was an establishment of standards, as Wolfgang said earlier, in cooperation with other associations. And we picked up and contributed to the international standards. We established ethical guidelines. We're revising them now. And that may be the main reason why you want to hear from me. We started considering a program of recognition of competence, which is the CES credentialing program. Establishing that took 3 years. It's been running for 11 years, and I think it's been quite successful. We're up to 520 credentialed evaluators at this point. In a country that has, in my estimation, but it's very approximate, about 1,000 people who perform professional evaluation. More recently, we've established an online training institute. So you see, it's a lot of activities. They're not necessarily fully coordinated. I will say, as a final word, that the competency profile that was developed in mid-2000s has become a very much of an integrative mechanism that we can work towards developing training events, but also other kinds of programs based on what we have established to be the key competencies, and based on where we see that evaluators are weaker towards sort of certain competencies, and we see that through the application process for the credential. So I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. We said Monica?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So yes, thank you very much for inviting me to contribute to this discussion. I would like to concentrate more on our country than on VOPE right now, yes, because we have quite similar activities as other VOPEs. For instance, we developed evaluation standards 13 years ago. Now we are going to update them. But I think the history is quite interesting, because in Poland, the whole system of evaluation culture had to be established from scratch. And the first evaluation were conducted in our country in mid-90s, after the establishment of a Democratic Republic in 1989. So these evaluations were carried out due to the requirement of the foreign funds, mainly for educational institutions and NGOs. And although evaluation was born in Poland in these two fields, the legal framework and institutional foundations for evaluation were adopted as a consequence of Poland's accession to the European Union in 2004. So the EU funds served as a real trigger for development of the supply side and for the overall expansion of evaluation in our country. And the second sector that introduced evaluation by law was formal education, I mean school education system, where evaluation has been mandatory since 2009 until this year, 2021, when it was abolished, as it was introduced as a new strategy of pedagogic supervision. And the third area of obligatory evaluation in Poland is development cooperation program, so-called Polish Aid, financed by national funds. So it was quite, let's say, innovatory. And this program is evaluated since 2012. So there are also some national and foreign funds for NGOs that require evaluation. So as you see, despite these three above mentioned areas with the relatively well-embedded presence of evaluation, it has been developing relatively slow, unfortunately, in other fields like labor market, social assistant culture, or municipal initiatives. So we can observe a very poor spillover effect, and evaluation practice suffers, let's say, silo problem, because it emerges in new fields without sufficient transfer of experience from other more matured, more experienced areas. So it leads to the same very early mistakes, and then it creates a landscape of, I call it, evaluation islands, yes, without a sufficient degree of cooperation and exchange. And I would conclude that one of the main factors that have constituted the pillars of professionalization and institutionalization of evaluation in Poland was just legal framework. So of course, it is an important element of this process, but there are also other crucial, in my opinion, factors. And fortunately, these elements can be also influenced by the VOPES. For instance, raising awareness of the benefits of evaluation, building evaluative thinking, and not only thinking, but also mentality. This is different than thinking, yes? And also raising inner motivation or the real need for evaluation, and of course, for using its results. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Monica. So we heard something different than the previous. So let us go to Japan to see what is the history there. Professor Hirono.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this panel discussion. And thank you also Professor Benoit and Monica for very enlightening explanations of your own country evaluation society and work. Now, as far as Japanese evaluation society is concerned, we started back in 2000 only 20 years ago. And however, evaluation function started much earlier, around the 1960s already. And so there are about, let's say, 60 years of experience in evaluation function, although society itself was developed only later in 2000. Now, what is the background of this evaluation function? There are three backgrounds. One is when Japan entered into the international scene as a supplier of ODA, Official Development Assistance. It is mainly conducted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And so they are much more concerned about how they can improve their own program of development cooperation through evaluation. So therefore, what they did first was the project evaluation, and from project evaluation to the program evaluation and finally a policy evaluation. The second channel was the Prime Minister's office. I was advisor to the Prime Minister, and therefore it was very important for me to push my Prime Minister to move into making our evaluation as a law. So we enacted the policy evaluation law in 2001, and under Mr. Koizumi, the Prime Minister. And so you can find that in terms of the Prime Minister, what is his interest? His interest is mainly how we can really develop a better policies to meet the general needs of the people in different strata of society. So it was mainly started as a policy evaluation. Now the third channel was from the Office of what we call Auditor General. And the Auditor General was more interested in how the budget was used. And therefore it was very much on the project side and very little on policy evaluation. So you can see that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs started with the project evaluation, program evaluation, and policy evaluation. Whereas the Prime Minister's office started with the policy evaluation and then move into program and project later. Whereas the Office of Director General was mainly concerned with how the budget was used, and therefore it's mainly item by item on the budget. So these are three channels. Now, what the Japan Society, Japan Evaluation Society was interested with this. When I was working in the different countries around the world, I found that the evaluation is conducted very thoroughly in the United States, in some other OECD countries. I used to work at the OECD myself and try to establish an OECD evaluation unit in Paris. And so this is very important for me to push forward why we want the evaluation. And we found that the different countries have different norms and standards, of course, but essentially the norms and standards set by the OECD was mainly on the development cooperation evaluation. And therefore, they were very clear in their own catalog there. Whereas the Prime Minister's office evaluation was a policy evaluation, and he was very much interested how he can really make policy better suited to the needs of the people. And in that case, needs of the people are different from each other. Business corporations have their own needs, and NGOs have their own needs, and also the universities have their own needs, and so forth. And therefore, it was important that policy evaluation ought to be tailored to the different priorities set by different organizations in society. However, later it was found out that if you really try to do this and that all the time, then you find there's inconsistency. And therefore, what happened is that under the Prime Minister's office, we have now set up a policy evaluation unit, which is thoroughly conducting all the policies done by different ministries of Japan. We have altogether 16 ministries, and therefore 16 ministries have now have to conduct their own evaluation, internal evaluation, as well as external evaluation. Now here comes the third point. What is important to us for Japan Evaluation Society is to see to it that evaluation is conducted thoroughly, evaluation conducted independently, evaluation conducted in transparency, and evaluation to be conducted accountability. So these are the three main thrusts of Japan Evaluation Society to see to it that these transparency, accountability, and the independence of evaluation is ensured. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. So we see different approaches, different reasons of having the system for professionalization. So let me ask you something else. So you are now doing some professionalization systems, so are performing, you have some results. Could you please summarize what are the pros and cons of the professionalization of evaluation, and who the mostly benefited from this professionalization? can we now start with Monica, please?
It's very important to underline that we are at the very beginning of our way to developing the certification, let's say, procedure. We just made the first step. So maybe there is nothing to be very proud of, yes, but I think maybe some information might be interesting for you. So our initiative is a part of the EU-funded project that aims at establishing a legal framework. Again, legal framework is important in Poland, so-called integrated qualification system. That constitutes the basis for including numerous qualifications. So our evaluation, conducting evaluation, is just a very small piece of the whole machine, yes? And up to now, we have developed the first document that includes a competence framework, and then we organized extensive consultations with various stakeholders, and we gathered several references to build strong support for our initiative. And this document was sent to the Ministry of Funds of the Regional Policy for its approval. And hopefully the next year, we will start developing the procedure of validating the competencies. So we expect various stakeholders of the evaluation process, evaluators, commissioners, labor market, and industry organizations to contribute to the development of the certification, of course, to benefit from it, because our certificate will be joined for evaluators and for commissioners. And so it is crucial that in this process has a participatory and socializing nature. So what about these benefits? We think that for evaluators, firstly, it is the opportunity to apply for formal confirmation of their competencies, because many, especially older evaluators who started before 2004, they acquired the knowledge and skills through informal education and on-the-job experience, like, learning by doing, yes? So all they have is just the employer's references, no other confirmations. Secondly, the certificate will align with the European qualifications framework. So it could be recognized by other EU countries and also facilitate evaluators' mobility. So I think it's a very important factor. And thirdly, the competence framework we developed provide directions for vocational training and academic courses. So it can also be the competence, it can also motivate evaluators to improve their competencies. As regard commissioners, they can also benefit from the certification to prove their competencies, but also we hope that certification will strengthen the evaluation's role and will support the better quality of commissioning of evaluations. And certificate can serve as an objective, as an independent mechanism that verifies evaluators' competencies, and it is the same benefit for the commissioners and for the labor market. And as regard market, it can also support employers and human resources staff in selecting evaluation specialists and facilitate job descriptions and assessing the evaluators' work. So last but not least, for industry organizations, we see the benefits that certification may result in increased consolidation of the evaluation community. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Professor Hirono, so what would you summarize as the pros and cons of professionalization?
Well, as far as organization is concerned, we conduct 3 types of evaluation training. One is, of course, by university, in collaboration with universities, and different universities are really preparing evaluation standard, norms and standard and everything, evaluation framework and so forth. But these are basic, done by the universities. And second is, of course, we call intermediate training program, where the evaluators who have done at least 100 projects and 100 programs, 100 policy evaluations, they are eligible for being certified as intermediate evaluator. And the third is, of course, a senior. And senior, of course, that we have very few still in Japan. who are considered to be a senior evaluators. But these senior evaluators have done a lot of work, theoretical work on evaluation in terms of nominal standard, in terms of framework, in terms of the polishing the results of evaluation and make them into policies. So the different types of training programs are conducted. Now, as you said, we have some problem here because of the fact that we have started the Evaluation Society only 20 years ago, but still we find that the universities are not really particularly, shall I say, thoroughly interested in evaluation. Somehow evaluation is considered to be something critical of government policies, and many national universities try not to criticize the government policies because they do have some backwash. And therefore, what is important is that for Japan Evaluation Society to work collaboratively with universities and convincing them that the professional evaluation is vital for making our policies, our program and project more accountable, more transparent, and more also independent. So this is our efforts at the moment. One more point which I want to mention is that if we find any problem or professionalization, then certainly we do have a lot of what we call discussion at national convention. We conduct national convention two times a year, and we have always a particular slot there where we are being asked, and we also ask ourselves how to improve professionalization or evaluation in different types and different fields in this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor. Mr. Benoit, can I ask you a question about, so we have heard about the positive things, about the pros. Could you tell us, is there anything cons, negative impact of the professionalization?
Oh, so you're pushing me on the negative side now. Well, I was going to start by saying I do insist on putting some advantages in there, but I'll start by saying that there can be some disadvantages. Now, disadvantages of professionalization in general, and more specifically, the disadvantages of credentialing or certification of evaluators. So the main disadvantage or risk, I would say, it's not a disadvantage because it's not certain, it's a risk. The main risk is excluding some people who are legitimately good practicing professionals, but don't have the credentials, the diplomas, or the ability to show that they follow appropriate practices. I think it's a relatively small risk, and it's a risk that I'm willing to take personally. When I go to the dentist, I prefer that the dentist has a diploma on the wall. And that I know that they actually studied under qualified people before they put anything in my mouth. So, just transpose that to evaluation. I prefer to deal with people who have shown that they are capable of conducting a good evaluation, one that will result in credible findings. And other possible risk is the risk of false positive. It's the risk of recognizing somebody as a qualified evaluator who is not a qualified evaluator. Some people are very good at picking up on lingo, jargon, and trends, and simply use that in a mindless way in order to promote their services. So there's a risk in false positivity. I think it's fairly small, though. And I think that I will take 30 seconds to mention that there are significant benefits. Influencing universities is important. In Canada, there are 6 study programs in graduate programs in evaluation, and 3 of them have built the program based on the evaluation competencies that the CES has established and promoted. Self-identification as an evaluator or an evaluation professional is a benefit, and it's an important one. The clarity of the offer of evaluation, and a professionalized activity has a clearer definition and is better able to sell itself. The credibility of the message once the evaluation is complete. I'm a credential evaluator. That carries a little bit more weight than if I wasn't when I present evaluation findings and messages. The protection of the public through promotion of quality evaluation, of course. And finally, small deal, but finally, some benefits to individual evaluators in terms of getting hired or obtaining a contract, maybe charging more, maybe not, but there are some personal benefits to professionalization, both for individual evaluators, for the profession, and for society as a whole. Much more important than the risks are.
Thank you very much. So now we have both sides of this. So
Benoit, could I ask one question?
Yes, please.
Can I ask Benoit? Okay.
Sure.
Now there's a saying that the surgery was successful, but patient died. Okay. Now this kind of remark is often also thrown against evaluators. Evaluators are very minutely concerned with all the details in terms of norms, standards, everything else. They follow the guidelines, and so they are perfect in doing things. However, what is the result? The result is not so good. So the surgery was very successful, but the patient died. That kind of thing. How about in Canada?
Well, no, I absolutely agree. All of these documents are that you referred to, standards, ethical guidelines, standards of practice, competency profiles. They're all tools, but in the end, they have to be applied in a contextual manner, and they have to be weighed against all the elements of the context in which a practice takes place. Some aspects of quality standards are more important in some areas than other. And ethical conduct and ethical guidelines are, well, they're important everywhere, but they have applicability that's different according to context. This is not the point of professionalization, of establishing pillars for the profession, is not to enclose it. It's not to close it. It is to give it a foundation so that it can emerge beyond and in the midst of many other activities that are sometimes confusing for people with whom we deal. It's a way to clarify that we're not auditors and that we're not accountants, and that we're not management specialists or consultants. We have a trade that is specific, and it's our way to define it.
Okay, so we are talking about the evaluation as any other profession, so we have to have all the risks as well, so that it could happen during the credentialing. Okay, so we are out of time, and I have a very short question, the last one for you. This is about the future of evaluation and also about the professionalization. So what do you think is going to happen with evaluation and professionalization in the next, let's say, 20 years? Let's start with Professor Hironov. Could you please? Professor, could you hear me? Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear me. Maybe then Benoit, can you tell us your projections of evaluation? How do you see it?
Yeah, I like that you asked if I can, because I'm not sure I can. 20 years is a long time. When I'm asked to project into the future, I look back to the same, backwards the same amount of time. So, and I try to see, is there some trend that I can identify? 20 years ago, that's 2001. That's an awful long time ago. A lot of things happened. A lot of things that we did not expect happen. What's the future of professionalization? Well, I think there are 4 stages of professionalization, or 4 stages for a profession. The individual practice is the first one. It's usually short-lived. It's very trades-based. The second level is collective organization, and all around the world we are in that stage now of collective organization. We have VOPs, 150 of them or so. We have standards popping up left and right. We have ethical considerations being written up and so on. So we have a lot of collective action taking place. The third stage is professional recognition. And that's what the CS is trying to do with its credentialing program. It's not only for Canadians, it's mainly used by Canadians, of course, but it's for our context, evaluation in Canada. The third stage being professional recognition. There's room there. There's room for development of study programs in universities, better professional development around the VOPI, and in the enrichment of the credentialing program, which is our professional designation now is sort of an entry level. It requires only a few years of practice. So we could consider, and I think that within the next 20 years, we will have a higher level recognition title for more seasoned evaluators. And the fourth level is regulation by government, where the practice of a profession is reserved. So not anybody can be a dentist, not anybody can be a doctor, a medical doctor. And something similar could happen for evaluators. It hasn't happened anywhere around the world yet. And it's a very complicated matter, but it's a possibility that reserve practice could be somewhere down the road, 20 years down the road. It's not impossible.
Thank you very much for very interesting prediction. So, Professor Hirono, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Okay.
Good. Okay. So, what do you think is going to be with the evaluation in the coming period?
Well, as far as the future of evaluation in my country is concerned, I think the demand for evaluation is growing in our own government, central government and local governments. And what is really interesting is that these government ministries have, as you said, internal and external evaluation. And the Japan Evaluation Society provides lots of information on what sort of evaluators are members of our organization, and also what sort of evaluations are more applicable to a particular ministry and so forth. So we are intermediary for providing a lot of professional evaluators into the government. And of course, our government, of course, they have their own standards by which they select who should be sitting in the external evaluation committee of each ministry. As I said, 18 ministries have the external evaluation committee. So we do have 18 evaluation committees in our own central government. And the same is happening in local governments. And of course, we have something like 3,700 local governments in my country. And the evaluation demand is growing very fast. So to me, what is important is that, as everybody has been saying, a quality of evaluation must be assured. And we should not just, shall I say, admit those evaluators who are considered to be a good evaluator, but we should go a thorough examination of how they have done the evaluation and what kind of recognition was given by our central government and local governments. One risk, as I said earlier, is that, as I said, surgery was successful, but the patient died. So we want to see to it that patient will not die, and surgery was successful.
Thank you very much. So your prediction is that the demand is going to be much more than now. So evaluation have to meet all these requirements in the future. So absolutely agree. So Monica, so what is your opinion about the future of evaluation? So how is it going to, let's say, be developed in not only in your country, but in some on the global scale or the European scale? So what are the factors that will probably impact on the development of evaluation?
Ratko, you are asking about the next 20 years. I don't know, how the future will look in the next 20 months or even 20 days. So, and my feeling is that nowadays, my country future and evaluation future is even more unpredictable, than earlier. But I think it is quite interesting to, when you want to know the future, sometimes it is very, valuable to look at the past. So I will tell you how it looked in the past in Poland, because our development of our evaluation capacities in our country has been evincing some volatility over time. Maybe it's strange for you, but there was a period of rapid development, yes, and then reduction of the evaluation potential. So as we are in the decrease now, we decided that it is the perfect time for preparing for the next increase, because it is, like this, yes, the development of evaluation in Poland, and I will tell you why in the moment. So we decided that this is the perfect moment for thinking about certification and thinking about, for instance, MA in evaluation. What happened? Our motivation for certification was not only, the lack of formal recognition, as Benoit said, but also this improvement of evaluation quality, because the Poland's accession to the European Union have boosted evaluation expansion. Yes, and especially between 2007 and 2013, the demand for evaluation exceeded its supply. Yes, so you might think, wow, it's, every evaluator's dream. Yes. But, it didn't happen, because it resulted in decrease of evaluation quality, and even we call it evaluation inflation. So tons of the reports were produced, but their utility was often very poor. And even if the quality was good, the knowledge gathered during evaluation was useless because it was not applied. Yes. So the result of this situation were deplorable. Because in 2015, evaluation became a non-eligible cost in the EU-funded projects, and it required financing within own budget. And in practice, this decision resulted in the cessation of evaluation at the project level. And since then, we have been observing a gradual reduction of the evaluation role and the scale. So I think it's really worth remembering this case. So now we have fewer courses, fewer post-diploma studies, less training, less publications than, for instance, 6 or 7 years ago. Yes, and in my opinion, evaluation has been shrinking in Poland. For instance, ex-ante evaluation of the EU funds and evaluation in formal education, as I mentioned before, are no longer required since this year, for instance. Yes, so in my opinion, it might further reduce evaluation role in Poland. So for us, it is a high time, and hopefully that it is not too late to develop this certification system, just to support people who are involved in evaluation process. So certification will not be obligatory. Other entities also can validate evaluation competencies based on the same or even their own assumptions. And I think that, which is maybe worth mentioning, our certification procedure has a socialized character and is based on inclusiveness and consensus. And in my opinion, these are two or three essential factors when it comes to certification. And I would recommend other VOPEC to think about it, yes, to concentrate on this participatory and socializing aspects. So sorry for not responding to your question, Vlatko, but you know, it's still challenging for me to think about future.
Okay. Thank you
I'm
very
sure
much.
that it will be like, you know, high and low, as usual in Poland, yes. So, you know.
Yeah, but so it is for sure that the demand is very important for this growth of evaluation. So we hope to raise demand with the institutions. Okay, so I believe we are out of time, and so we are over the time as well. So thank you very much to all of you for the very interesting discussion. So I hope we have inspired all the audience, so the countries that are thinking about considering starting with professionalization. So they will start thinking what are the factors and what they have to do in order to develop this process. And this is the long journey. And so it is not easy journey, obviously. So thank you again. So, and we are coming back to Julius. Over to you.
Thank you, Vlatko. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vlatko, and other panel members. That was very informative and wonderful session. And let's give a few minutes opportunity to audience. If you have a question, you can put it on the chat, or you can say it so that we can respond. If you have a question, welcome. And in case you don't have a question, but you have a comment, you are also welcome. Yes.
And so there is the question is, there are certain criteria for evaluation of programs and projects. How could we evaluate public policies? Is there any standard? This is the question. So standard for evaluation of public policies.
Thank you. Would you direct the question to our panelist?
So is there any of the panelists would like to answer this question?
I actually don't think that there are, but I'd be glad to learn about them if anybody has a reference to offer.
Okay, so this is no.
Okay.
So I cannot see any other questions.
Okay. Again, to the participants, to our guests in the event, if you have a question, like in 1 minute's time, if you can say it, because I
just raise the hand.
Pardon, Vlatko?
So if they want to ask the question, they need to raise the hand. In the
yes.
Yeah.
You can raise your hand.
I see no one is raising hands, so no. So let me see. Aha. We have a question. What is the most important skills needed for evaluators?
Yes.
So our panelists, is there anyone who would like to respond to this?
Well, being able to read, being able to listen,
yes,
and being able to express yourselves, in addition to being able to analyze. I mean, the skills. If you go down to the level of skills, it's very basic stuff that is shared by all of the social science and humanities disciplines. But if you talk about competencies, then there are more specific ones. And the short answer would be go to any of the competency schemes that exist. There's one at UNIG, there's one at IDEAS, there's one at the CES, there's one in the NZIA, the New Zealand Evaluation Society, South Africa Evaluation Society has one, CEMIA. So just read through the competency profiles that have been established for evaluators, and you will see a number of them. I know the Canadian Evaluation Society competency profile best, and there used to be 49 competencies. Now it's been trimmed down to 36 with better writing and more and tighter definitions. So there's 36 things that evaluators should be able to or should be competent in according to the CES. I can't summarize them in 2 words here, but my suggestion is to choose one of the schemes. They're all talk about similar things and read through it.
Thank you. So let me just jump in. So I would say the most important is to have the common sense. So this is very rare today to have. Okay, we have now Basnet Chandrakala. You can.
Hello, this is Chandrakala Basnet from Nepal, Gandhigi Province Assembly. Thank you very much for organizing this wonderful webinar. I would like to know how can I get these things, the reference you have given, if any material is available in the internet so that I can go through it and read myself and enable myself to evaluate the policy. Because program and project, recently we have just evaluated 15 projects and it was wonderful. Thank you very much. From IP training, it enhanced my knowledge, but now it's something relevant to public policy we are trying to evaluate, and I don't really have any reference of that. So I would like to know if it is there somewhere, study material or something.
Thank you for your question. So, is there any volunteer who would like to respond?
You could. I just did a quick scan of betterevaluation.org, which is the best website about evaluation in the world. So go to betterevaluation.org and search for policy evaluation. You may find some pathway there for reading about that. There's not one document that talks about how to conduct a policy evaluation that I found in my 30-second search, but your first stop should always be betterevaluation.org.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
I would also like to answer to the previous question, maybe.
Yes, please.
Just a small, contribution, because of course, it's obvious that we need research skills, yes, competencies, but I would like to emphasize what Benoit maybe said, that the learning is very important. Yes, willingness to learn and willingness to listen and posing relevant questions is also very important for evaluators, but also engagement, yes, and even believing in evaluation. If I don't believe in evaluation, people will not believe in me, yes, and in evaluation also. So I think also soft skills are quite important, and we try to include them into our competence framework. For instance, of course, communication skills, but also negotiations, time management, dealing with stress, for instance, yes. So all this stuff are quite often omitted, and I think we should remember that even if somebody is a great researcher and has no such skills, probably his or her evaluation will not be successful, yes, because he's not in good contact, in good relationship with people and with commissioners. So we should also remember that.
Thank you, Monica. Okay, so we have another Richard.
So good evening. Yeah, this is Richard from India. So, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you can talk. We can hear you.
Yeah. So it was very insightful listening to all the experts. So I have a social work background. So I'm a postgraduate in social work and been working in the development sector for the last 3 years. So for the last maybe a couple of months, maybe to be honest, only for the last 6 months, I've been started to reading a lot on evaluation and communication with evaluation experts and everyone. I just want to know from you, the experts from around the globe. So where and how did you start maybe learning evaluation, and how the path that you have traveled so far from being maybe if you could have been in a different sector or some different position, or how did you begin a career, or where did you start learning, and what are the process that you have been traveling? So this is what I just want to know.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very interesting question. So, dear panelists.
Okay. I started in evaluation 37 years ago. The world was really different. And there was no such thing as an evaluator. I was a social researcher. And I happened to apply social research to programs. This is an other era. This is millions of pages of publications ago. So it has no bearing on today's situation. I would say that a new evaluator today should get formal training, if possible. There's formal training available online. They should connect with their VOPI for sure. There's VOPIs everywhere, and some countries have more than one. So connect with your VOPI and connect with the national and international emerging evaluator networks, because there's strength in collective action. There's little strength in individual action. There's strength in collective action, and there are. I mean, Evaluators has regional branches all over the world. If you want to be more local, look for a national emerging evaluator network, probably connected to the VOPI. So those would be my suggestions.
Thank you, Benoit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Would Monica or
My path was very strange because I graduated in psychology. Then I decided to start the PhD program in social research. And during this program, I met the professor who had to conduct evaluation because he implemented the project, and the foreign, with the foreign funds, and the founder told him to do it, and professor said, okay, I am not going to do it. Let's, students can do it. Yes, it's an obvious situation, and we had no chance, so we did it. But I thought it's just a, one adventure in my life. Yes, but then some time passed. I decided to give birth to my kids. Yes, spent some time, couple of years with kids, and then I was looking for the new directions in my professional life, and I just it was again just a kind of accident. Yes, I just recalled the situation that I conducted evaluation, and it was something different than just learning. Yes, that I just love to learn. And I start to look for, by the internet, this word evaluation, and I found that post-diploma studies in evaluation. And I think, well, why not? Let's try, yes. And it was very funny because I met my professors, a couple of my professors from the PhD program. So we met again after almost, 10 years, yes. And then I took an internship, yes. And I remember that at the very beginning, I read many evaluation reports, and it was my learning. Yes, just reading these reports, and looking for some mistakes, yes. And then slowly, the first evaluation I conducted on a voluntary basis. I was even not paid, yes. And then, you know, it was like, I said, like addiction, yes, because evaluation, I love evaluation because it is, every project is completely different, yes. It is never-ending learning. So I think this is why I am still in this field. And for me, it is important. So as you see, the paths may be, you know, very different, but if you love it, you will stay. Yes, it is. I think it is a kind of addiction. Thanks.
Thank you. I absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you love it, you will find a way. Okay, I see no other hands and nothing. So, Julius, could you please continue?
Thank you, Vilatko, and the panelist. Yeah, the journey in evaluation profession. And now we come to the end where we have vote of thanks by Anna, Erika. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Julius. So on behalf of the Interregional Initiative for Professionalization of Evaluation, we would like to give our warmest thanks to our speakers who joined us today to celebrate our second anniversary. So thank you to Professor Wolfgang Meyer for honoring this event, to Abir Hakus for an excellent welcoming speech, and of course, to our dear panelists, Professor Hirono, Sir Benoit Goodyear, and Ma'am Monica Niziolek, for sharing not only your wealth of knowledge and experience in professionalization of evaluation, but also your passion to really push to advance evaluation not only in your region but also for the rest of the world. And we really appreciate that you have decided to join us today despite the time differences that you have encountered just to join us. So thank you very much for joining us for this event. And of course, to my colleagues in IRIPE who organized this event, Sir Alok, Acela, Vladko, Rashmi, and of course to our dear moderator for excellent performance in making sure that things are going smoothly for this event. Julius, thank you so much. And to our production team who work hard to realize this event, to Randika, to Maduka, Mark, Hasiti, and Shamadkara, thank you very much. And lastly, to our audience, thank you for joining us in our celebration of the second anniversary of IRIPE. Please do keep supporting us and look forward for more initiatives from IRIPE in the incoming 2022. So thank you so much. Back to you, Julius.
Thank you very much, Anna. And I also take this opportunity to thank you for giving us those closing remarks. Thank you. And the launch of M&E Career Resource App for GEs, this is happening on Thursday, 16th December 2021 at 10 a.m. India Standard Time or 11:30 p.m. European Standard Time. The registration link is there, and the speakers are also listed in this flyer that we see. So we are welcome to join this launch. Thank you, and keep in touch. We have been glad to have all of you in this event. You made our event a success, and we thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day, good evening. Bye.